good? What's good? What's good? What's happening? What's going on, chat? What's going on? Something a little different this week. We're not role playing this week. Y pipe, let's go. Yeah, so we're podcasting this week. Last episode. Oh, tomorrow we might do a bit of might be doing a bit of role play because there's a wedding happening at around 8 o'clock tomorrow, 8 or 9, I can't remember. But yeah, as you can tell in the title, we do have two special guests. We've got Big Surp and we've got ASPEX as well. Two well-known people, in the community. So yeah, we're just podcasting this week to the lead up of the update. So yeah, our first guest tonight is Big Surp. Now he's an OzzyGaming manager. He's AFP. He's been in so many orgs, and we're just sort of keen to get his backstory and his rise into the whole Aussie gaming scene. I call him a guest. No, I call him a star. Actually, he's a star. He's a superstar. But we've got Big Surp. What's going on, Surp? Can you hear us?
What's happening?
What's going on, man?
Sorry, I'm just reading your chat.
Just reading the chat. Yeah. Feel free to interact. Now, there's not much really interaction with well, I don't know. I don't really interact much with the whole podcasting, but feel free to just interact whenever.
Yeah, just seeing the mad support coming from him at the moment.
Yeah, bro. Fire out. What's going on?
I don't know.
Right.
Anyways, block him out.
We'll block them out. Block the haters, mate. You know how it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure you get a lot of haters. Being a manager.
Oh, too many.
Yeah. You've been on a shit end of a on how would I say it, like on people's bad list and shit.
Oh, I reckon too many people, bro. There's a lot of people that don't like the Big Surp.
Yeah, you've been through quite a bit. You're a manager. You've got I'm assuming over 2,000 hours. You're on the rich list. So I suppose
Top of rich, let's come on.
Yeah, sorry,
Go
top
on,
of
man.
it. Sorry.
Go on, yeah.
You're also AFP, Big Vito Capone, Big Seb Zazu. I suppose, where does the story sort of begin in a more of a out of character sort of sense?
Can we start from the beginning?
Well, we'll start from like, when did you first join the server and what were you doing like on your first day?
I first joined the server close to the end of 2019.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago. I joined because of, some people might know him. His name's Dak. Dak and STI, these are like my closest mates online.
Yeah.
Dak started playing Aussie and he got me into it. And I remember the first night I joined Aussie, I was sitting in a queue for like fucking 4 hours with like no platinum, nothing. I was just sitting there stressing out. And this was like, so this was before, I'm going to bring this up, but this was like before vaping was like a big thing, right?
Yeah.
And I used to smoke cigarettes at the time.
Yeah.
And I kid you not, dude, I had that much fun on Aussie the first night where I went out, this is like my main memory. I went without a cigarette for like 8 hours that day.
Yeah.
Because I just couldn't get off the server, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, like the second day I bought platinum. And then I finally started getting in a lot quicker. But I don't know, when I first started, dude, it was just following Dak around, to be honest.
Yeah.
I got the platinum money, which was 100k.
Yeah.
And Dak kept telling me to save it and not buy a car, blah blah blah. But back then, when La Ferraris were in Sunshine at the time, they weren't discontinued yet.
Yeah.
Whoever drove a La Ferrari back then was like the coolest cunt ever, right?
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, this guy's rich. I want to be him one day.
Yeah.
So you know what I'd done? I saved up another 100K and I went and bought a LaFerrari because only like 220K.
Yeah, mine said yesterday how things were like a lot cheaper. Like guns were like 20K, and how he
Oh
ripped you
yeah,
in
they're
the
dirt cheap, bro. Maloos were like 16 bands, like it was dirt cheap.
far out. Take me back far out. Um, so when you first started, were you always Seb Zazu or were you, um,
Nah, I started out as Subzazu.
so right from the very beginning, you were Seb Zazu. Do you want to? So you've got two characters, or you got any other, I suppose,
I got other
characters?
characters, but my mains are Vito and Seb.
Vito and Surp. All right, sweet.
Yeah.
So I suppose we'll start off the story with Surp, right? What on yeah? What? How did Surp? Sorry, how did Seb Zazu, get from where he was to where he is today? Where does the story begin?
Um, it started, like I said, or like I briefly touched on yesterday. Me and Dak started running drugs from 4 a.m. in the morning up until 10 a.m. for the Gentlemen's Club. And they were known as like the richest people in the server at the time.
Yeah,
And then after that, you just meet people at those drug locations late, like early in the morning, and you just talk to them.
yeah,
Um, and then that's when I met like Hobbsy and Warden and Slim, like most of the Knox boys.
yeah,
That's when we all met each other, and then we started up a group. Actually, no, the first group I started up was with Dak,
yeah,
and it was called the White Fobs,
yeah,
and we'd just go around Sandy robbing everyone.
yeah.
And then after that, we started up the Sandy Watchdogs,
Yeah.
and we'd dress up like SRT, and we'd go stop people from robbing people. Um,
Flip the script.
yeah, we flipped the script. But then I met Hobbsy and stuff like that, and then me, Hobbsy, and a couple of other boys, we started up the Syndicate.
Yeah,
And this is where I really got my name for myself. And all the Syndicate boys did because we used to grind maybe like 500 bump minimum per week.
oh yeah,
Um, so it was like non-stop grinding drugs, and we distribute it to other orgs.
yeah. This was
Um,
before the syndicate became official, or how did that
nah, Syndicate
storyline?
was never a fit. So there was a Syndicate back in the day, but this was a new Syndicate.
Yeah,
Um, and we just distribute like hundreds of bump to different orgs, and then you'd get interactions, and that's sort of where I met Mana as well.
yeah,
Um, and like the interactions back then were fucking crazy, bro. It's like I'm hoping the interactions back then will sort of uh, come back again with the new update because it's going to be a lot more. Civs would have to RP with org side of things to
yeah.
get what they want.
Yeah, I think with what's been leaked so far, I think it is pretty cool, and that's going to be sort of that expectation, right, with the new update. Um, but yeah, so Mano was saying yesterday as well, how the culture back then was it was a lot of robbing and a lot of
Oh
just
yes,
stealing from other players and stuff like
it
that.
was fucking insane, bro. Like I remember my first day, I was so angry. There was this UK gang,
Yeah,
and they'd put on like UK accents, and they'd roll around in Range Rovers.
yeah,
Um, and they'd just rob like they'd rob you every time they seen you, yeah. And it come to a point where I was like, nah, fuck these guys, right? So they killed me.
yeah.
Um, and when they killed me, back then when you used the combat log, you'd spawn back in with your pistol or your gun.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah,
So me and that combat logged on him. We came back and then we killed him.
yeah,
Um, and then I was so happy about it. But then the first roleplay situation I experienced um was it was actually really cool and I always remember it. So I got pulled up on by a couple Trackhawks, I think it was at the time.
yeah,
And then they tied me up and they made me wait for their boss to see if I was the person they were after.
yeah,
But they'd done role play really well, and that's what like I was like, fuck, these guys actually like role play. Like it's actually like cool, you know what I mean? Like it's fun.
yeah,
Um and after that, that was when I was sort of like, fuck yeah, I want to actually take role play seriously and not just combat log on people and shoot them up.
get full like proper into it and stuff. What did
Yeah,
you?
no, and that's
Yeah, no, sorry.
okay. No, no, go.
Oh no, I was gonna say, did you get brought up for that combat logging and all that?
Nah, man, I never got brought up for it. Because back then, Aussie was really relaxed as well. So like right now, you see management and stuff. We're trying to push out this snowflake behavior that comes from the community.
Yeah,
So like we don't. Back then, there was like such minimal reporting. Like you wouldn't get reported for stuff like that. People weren't really focused on reporting people.
yeah,
Where in a sense now, where like people will report you for the tiniest things, and It's just not fun at all.
Yeah.
But back then, like I feel like the player base was just more. They played the game for the game, and they role played because of role play. They
Yeah.
didn't really take it OOC and take it to heart of what would happen, and they wouldn't report it.
Yeah.
So back then it was like really kicked back. You wouldn't get reported for shit like that unless you like mass VDM'd or mass RDM'd or blatantly metagamed. Like you wouldn't really get reported, dude.
Gotcha. So you had that first interaction where you got snatched up. They were waiting for their boss and stuff like that. What happened after that? Did you end up going after him, or where does the storyline
Nah,
continue?
they shoved me in the back of a limo with the boss, and he had a chat with me, and he gave me like 50K to apologize and let me on my way.
Ah, that's pretty cool. That
Yeah, it's pretty sick, man.
that would have been pretty cool, actually. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Sweet. So what was your like sort of first org? Did you get into or the whole org life back then, or how did
Yeah,
that?
so straight after the syndicate, we knew OOC that Hobbsy and Slim were going to get offered a spot in OC,
Yeah.
which were outcast.
Mm,
And then I didn't know I was going to get offered a spot as well. I
yeah.
was under the impression that they weren't going to offer me a spot. And then I soon found out later on that they actually were.
Yeah.
But before I could take that offer up, when I found out Hobbsy and Slim were leaving, I straight away joined the Uncles.
Yeah.
And the Uncles back then, like that was an org you just wouldn't fuck with. Like they owned the whole of Sandy, and back then they were actually like a top org.
Yeah. Kind of like
Um,
yeah. Kind of
but
like
like, but they weren't a top org in the city, for example. Like it was really separated. In Sandy, the Uncles owned Sandy,
yeah.
but in the city, like they'd have other orgs that would press them the fuck out. But like in Sandy, for example, they had that respect like from other orgs, and they were considered like the top. But no, man, the Uncles was fun, bro. Like that was actually a really fun org to be in. That's when I met a lot of the people.
Who was
That
in the like uncles at the time? Like anybody that's sort of recognizable today, or
recognizable today, maybe Whiskey. He was in his stream yesterday.
oh, okay, yeah, yep,
He's still. I think he's in Knox.
yeah.
Um, Safe OCE, who's Hemi Smith.
Oh, okay, yeah, 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 yeah.
He was in
He's a pretty
Uncles.
cool guy. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man. No, all the other OGs they're gone, bro. Like,
Was this when you became a hunt?
nah, this wasn't when I become a hunt.
Oh, right, right.
But
So
yeah, Uncles is sort of a blur. Like I didn't do much in the Uncles. Like the best thing I'd done in the Uncles was when I actually started making a name for myself.
yeah,
And me and Warden, we would grind landscaping for like 15 hours a day. Like I'm not even joking.
yeah.
And we'd buy discontinued cars together.
Okay, yeah,
And it come to a point where back then when the Hellcat was worth like $20 million, there was only like one. There was only like maybe eight. We had one.
yeah, yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, yeah,
We bought a ZL1 when they were one of three.
yep,
We just had all the cool cars like 458s when they were like fucking 18 mil. Like
all from landscaping.
yeah, and then when Warden quit the server, I sort of took on most of the cars that we bought together.
Yeah,
And then I joined the brothers because I left the uncles because it was just they've become really inactive. They never done anything.
yeah,
Um, I joined the brothers. That was when I met like Arya and stuff, and that was when I went for the role play of me being Arya's long lost son.
yeah,
Um, but like brothers was definitely where Seb's like say legacy in a sense started
yeah,
because the main reason I was kicked from I wasn't kicked from brothers. Brothers disbanded, but it got to a point where I was punching on with like the heads of brothers for a long time.
yeah,
Because other orgs didn't want to communicate with the actual leaders of brothers. They wanted to communicate with me.
yeah,
Um, and a lot of the heads didn't like that. Like the higher ups didn't like that. But that was like when I was sort of already drifting away. I had millions of dollars. That was when I had like 20 million on me all the time.
yeah.
I had all my discontinued cars. Like I was already moving up in the ranks, and then fucked off from brothers. And then after brothers, the big vendetta started.
So, in the brothers, that's when you became Seb Zazu Hunt. How did that
Yeah.
sort of storyline come about?
Um, so it was agreed upon OSC just for like a little bit of a storyline.
Yeah,
And the role play we went with in City was Arya left me at a fire station when I was a kid.
yeah,
And then we like went through like the role play DNA tests and showing that I'm actually her son. But I was a fucking hothead back then. Like in roleplay, Seb was the biggest hothead.
Yeah.
And that was just my roleplay.
Yeah. You still are,
Um,
man. I'm not gonna lie. Even even out of character, bro. You're a hothead,
yeah,
man.
I mean, well, that's just but like when I'm like really being a hothead in roleplay as Seb, that's like always who Seb has been.
Yeah.
Um, like he's not gonna sit there and let someone talk shit to him. He's not gonna sit there and just let someone be fucking weird.
Nah, I get
Um,
that. I get
but
that
like
one.
now I'll do a little bit more roleplay. But back then, dude, like if someone was being a weirdo, I'd just shoot him in the face on the spot.
Yeah,
Like that's
because
sort of where it was.
you're itching for that for the shootout, right?
No, I wasn't even hot. Like I didn't even like hostile RP as much as I did now back then.
Yeah.
It was sort of just like a that's my character sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, gotcha. So yeah, you became Seb Zazu Hunt. Um, then sort of the brothers. Was it? Sorry, was it the brothers? The brothers.
Yep.
Yeah. I suppose everybody went their own direction. Um,
Yeah, all the brothers went to Infinity Gaming.
gotcha.
I was
And
like the only one that stayed.
stayed loyal. So, Vendetta. Were you the leader of Vendetta?
Connection lost.
Rip, rip, rip.
Sorry, we're back. We're
We're
back.
back. We're back. What keeps
So,
happening, bro? It always happens.
um, my internet's actually a bit buggy. And I gotta actually convert back to Ethernet, and I just haven't been bothered. But yeah, I'll get to that probably straight after this podcast.
Yeah, but
Um, but yeah, so were you the leader of Vendetta?
I was the one that started Vendetta. Yeah.
So how did the whole Vendetta thing come about?
I'm just trying to see if his streams up
Yeah, no, it's I've got it recording anyways, so even if it yeah,
because I think you're not streaming right now. You goose.
gotcha.
Actually, no, I think you're live now.
Give it a sec.
Give it a sec.
All right, we should be back now. My apologies. Um, but yeah, how
Vendetta.
did how did Vendetta come about? You were the org leader there. Um,
So with Vendetta, um, I don't even know, man. It was sort of just like a fuck it sort of thing.
yeah,
We'll just like we want to be at the top. I'm like Seb's character is already fucking almost at that top, and this was when like Shams and stuff were still around. So obviously those sort of characters were still like the highest points, like Shams, Reckham, all those characters were still like the bigger characters.
yeah,
But I was like, nah, fuck it, I want to be like at the top.
yeah,
So I started Vendetta. Um, we had a lot of young kids in there, but we've known them for ages.
yeah,
And Vendetta was literally like we were just extremely fucking hostile. Like we weren't looking for hostile all the time, but we were the org that would start every other org just because we're like, fuck it. We like don't want to have friends like in the org, like other orgs. We don't want to be friends with anyone else. We just want to be at the top.
yeah.
And that's exactly what we did, bro. Vendetta never lost one org sit with anyone.
And how long was
Um,
Vendetta around for?
oh, bro, maybe like aspects help me out here. Maybe like 6 months, maybe less.
Yeah,
Vendetta was good though, bro. Like we had some amazing roleplay. Like the highlight of my roleplay was when we had Pit down at the docks, and I'm pretty sure I still got clips on my stream.
yeah.
And this was when I had 100 viewers on my stream. Pit had 100 viewers on his. Actually, no. Gambino's did beat Vendetta one time. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
on the day of
Kaiser calling you out in
yeah,
chat.
on the day of Vendetta's when we were going to disband,
Yeah,
we'll sort of like fuck it, and we just pushed the Gambino's house, and the Gambino house was like a one way. If they were inside and shooting at us, there's no way they were
yeah,
um There was no way they were losing, but we
Yeah.
just done it for fun. But anyways, continuing. So yeah, me and Pitt had 100 viewers each. We set Pitt up for a meeting.
Yeah.
Um, down where like the Lake of Zancudo is.
Yeah, another one. Yeah.
And it was just me, Aspects, and Ollie there.
Yeah.
But then we set him up, and when I said a code word, there's like 10 of the Vendetta boys jumped out of bushes and just held like 10 one crew members up.
Bro.
Um,
Yeah,
and-
you gotta send me that, man. I gotta see
yeah,
that.
and what we done was we put Pitt on his knees at the end of the docks, and we brought every one crew member up to Pitt,
Yeah.
and we said you either stab your boss in the head or in the neck, and you can live, and all your whole family lives, or if you choose not to, you die here on the spot.
Oh my gosh.
And we done that for like five or six of them, and then the seventh one was just he ruined the role player heavy. He just started spam punching us all when we had two handers out.
Yeah.
So we ended up just killing him all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Just mass execution and stuff.
Yeah, that's essentially what it was.
I think that's pretty cool. I know that little spot. So you said Aspects and Ollie were they a part of Vendetta as well?
Yep, Aspects was my 2IC, I believe.
Oh, right. So Aspects was until I see of an org.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Aspects was my 2IC. I can't. I'm almost certain he was.
Yeah. Yeah. So and Ollie was in there as well. Who else was in Vendetta at the time?
Fuck. It was all the people that got banned for doxing, dude. Like
Oh,
it
okay,
was
yeah.
all the stauncher kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was good. Vendetta was fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
Definitely was.
Nah, that's pretty cool. So um what were the other orgs in that sort of time frame? Was there like was House of Zen a thing or
Yeah, there was no. So House of Zen weren't a thing.
yeah.
And Vendetta's time, I'm pretty sure they disbanded because that's when Aspects and Ollie were in House of Zen.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So
So it was Gambino's Vendetta, one crew. Uh,
OC.
no, OC wasn't a thing.
Alright. TPK.
Yeah, TPK was definitely one of them.
Yep.
I want to say there was. I want to say the Reapers were still going, but I don't. No, the Reapers weren't definitely not still going.
Yeah.
I can't remember I can't remember. There was a biking gang. I can't remember who it was.
So yeah, sorry. Yeah, so there were a few orgs back then at the time. So Vendetta finishes up. What happens sort of after that?
So the reason I disbanded Vendetta was to be the seventh member of Allah.
That's pretty big. So you were once an org leader, and you've stepped down to be the seventh member of La Rev.
Yeah, so they had their founding six,
Yep.
and then there was me.
Yeah.
So like the thing was with Allah when it first started was I really wanted to like I got offered it. Wrath said to me, he's like, "There's always going to be a spot in Allah for you."
Yeah.
Um, but what happened was it was like all the OGs in one org, and that's what really like dragged me to Allah. It was like all the OG boys I've been spending like 3 to 4 years on Aussie with,
Yeah.
and now all in one org.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what it was, bro. And I was like, fuck it. And like LR when it first started, bro, it was so fucking cool. Like
Yeah.
you'd have me and another LR member, we'd go around on our ninjas and just info grab for like hours at a time. We'd be like blacked out masks and we'd just go info grab on every little thing we could.
I think that's pretty cool, and far out. I wish I had like more knowledge back then to know what LR was about. But you want to like, how did that sort of pickup happen though? So Wrath told you, or what happened like in an RP sort of?
So that pickup happened. Pretty sure I was kidnapped.
Yeah.
And they took me down to the docks in like this really secluded place. They all had their masks on, their voice changers on, and then at the time, like you couldn't tell anybody you were a part of it, no matter what.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what it was. Like no matter what, you could never, you could never like tell anyone.
So
Um,
so with
and it was
your
cool. Like the role play when I got picked up was really fucking cool.
yeah
but it went for a long fucking time. Like the pickup went for so long.
Why? Like, why was that? It's just like,
Joe Mahogany loves talking.
yeah, yeah. No, fair enough. So the whole pickup, that sort of period there, LR was obviously in its early days. Was it official? Were they official back then?
No, no, they weren't an official org back then.
All right. So you were the seventh member at the time. So how did that happen though? So you would have built yourself up a big sort of profile, trying to prove a point. Make like to I suppose prove to OzzyGaming that you were the number one, you are the top dog. Starting up Vendetta and all that.
Yeah,
Then taking a step down from org leadership and all that to being a
because
part. Like what?
it's,
Like
it
what was
was
that
because
like?
I didn't need org leader. I didn't need to have an org behind me anymore.
Yeah.
To prove who I was in roleplay.
Yeah.
But and the thing was with LR is like, yeah, you're in LR, but like you still go about being Seb. Like you don't walk around masked up. There's no um like there was no like how it is now, like you can wear your mask like your LR cut around with your mask and stuff,
Yeah.
and you have to be hidden if you like a pickup for LR.
Yeah, yeah.
Back then it was like you lived your normal life in roleplay, but you're in LR. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, nah, I
Um
get ya.
that's sort of what it was. So like nothing really changed in roleplay other than when we had like secret meetings on fucking random spots that safety would find.
Nah, that's pretty cool. Safety's good like that. Nah,
Yeah.
safety's pretty cool, and his role play is like, it's, it's um, it's different, but in a positive way, if that makes sense.
I've always liked Steg's roleplay. Like Steg's roleplay, your roleplay, Aspects' roleplay. Yeah, it's not my cup of tea. But like I lost a lot of my passion for like serious roleplay when I got manager.
Yeah,
And that was no, it's not a bad thing. It's just more I dedicate a lot of my time to management for the server, and when I do play the server, it's sort of like a privilege, and I just have fun.
yeah.
It's like, for example, that's why I'm always an AFP because I just fuck around, and have fun. I don't really do that serious sort of role play side of things. I don't
With
have time for it anymore.
with the server wiping, do you think you see yourself getting back into it and all that?
Um, my plan for the server wipe is probably first couple of weeks I might play cop.
Yeah,
And then I will come back to the LR boys and we'll just fucking go hard together. I
yeah,
won't really like Seb Zazu's name's never gonna die out, you know what I mean? So I don't really need to grind for that to get back to the top. Like it's always gonna be sitting there.
yeah. Of course.
So I'm not really gonna grind for money and cars and stuff like that. Like you know me, if I want a fancy car, like I'm just gonna drive around in it.
Yeah, of course.
Um,
Yeah,
but like no, I definitely will grind with the boys, bro. Like I'm really keen to see like vendors and you know me, I love my hostile roleplay, bro. So vendors especially, and
yeah, of course.
um, like naturally generated org beef is what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I
Because
think.
right now to have org beef and org wars, bro, it's like a forced storyline every single fucking time. But when update hits, yeah, like orgs are actually going to have reasons to punch on with each other. Like it's going to be a lot more if civs want drugs, they have to go to an org because some drugs aren't accessible for civs.
Yeah,
Um, like, and then maybe one org wants to sell to that group, but we're already selling to that group, and that can just generate, RP right there.
I think the whole vendor
Um,
thing is definitely gonna add a whole like new dynamic to that sort of org v civ sort of role play. I think
mm,
that's pretty cool. But I suppose with that being said though, do you think now I don't expect you to have a solid answer. This is more of like just something in the air. But
yeah.
do you think that people wanting to start up orgs is that sort of process going to be a lot more quicker, or will there still have to be a bit of a like a build up and proper like RP sort of backstory to everything, or how do you think that's gonna work? Because for an org to disband, that could happen in less than 24 hours, but for an org to build themselves back up, that process alone could take up to a month, even 2 or 3. So what's that? Do you think that orgs are gonna be yeah, sort of coming in a lot more, like, I don't know, on a manager's sort of point of view? What do you think about that?
With orgs, man, like I'll say it 100% honesty. Like recently we have been picking up orgs a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Aussie was known back in its day for it could be like up to 3 4 months that your org wouldn't get accepted.
Yeah.
But like, for example, like if the org is like a bunch of players that management see consistently role playing on the server, they have good role play, they have good storylines, they receive good feedback from other players. Like, we're not going to hold them back.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not going to say if we're going to go back to taking ages to approve an org or not,
Yeah.
because I genuinely don't know. But it would make sense because we've completely cut out the whole 2 month period of waiting for clothing and MLO and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yes, it's still a 2 month probation period, but I don't know, man. It really depends on the application. Like, if it's an amazing app and management's heard nothing but good come from this org or this group,
Yeah.
that might push them to get org a little bit faster.
Yeah. 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 I
Um,
know Nox. That was probably one of the quickest.
like
Like they.
yeah, like
They.
Nox was a group that I knew majority of the boys in there, and I knew they were good at role play, and I knew what they stood for.
Yeah.
So with management, I definitely backed them a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck it, let's just give them a chance.
Yeah.
Um, but we'll see, man. I don't know what the player pop's going to be an update. I don't know if we're going to get our queues back. I don't know if we're going to go back to fucking 200 man lobbies with fucking 70 players in a queue.
Yeah.
If we do, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. I think that
Um,
that'd be pretty cool.
but a lot of the stuff just depends on whether or not our server, like on our server population.
Yeah. I think the update. I think it's gonna be a lot more competitive. Knowing that everybody's gonna be on an even like sort of playing field.
Yeah.
I one thing that sort of came to my mind as well was the vendor wars.
Yeah.
Um, with no black market, or like purchasable like two handers and stuff like that. Um, the first org battle is gonna be pistol play. Is that correct? Like, would that be the case?
The whole server's meta for at least a month, dude, will be pistol player.
That's crazy. Like, what would is that? Does that count for cops as well, or I mean, it would have to, right?
Nah, cops will have their armory the same.
Yeah,
Um, like they'll still have their access to their two-handed weapons and stuff like that. But for the first month, bro, like cops won't see it being necessary to use their two-handed weapons.
yeah, with
Um,
the one for
because a
one.
lot of players are just going to be rolling around with like knives and pistols you buy from the ammo store, and a lot of players won't even like use their pistols like they use them now. Like, they won't go to a random shootout and they won't try to force a random shootout with cops. It's because they don't have that money to go back and just buy another one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, so like in my what I think the server's going to be for the first month is simply like players trying to get to know the new server and the new structure of the server, and um, players like just genuinely trying to build themselves up.
yeah.
So like that's what I think they're going to be focused on, other than just shootouts and stuff like that.
All right, sweet. And sorry to sort of like backtrack on what we are talking about earlier with like LR and everything like that.
Yeah.
From where LR was back then to where it is now, um, there's obviously a big difference. But what are your like? Yeah, how would you compare it?
Look, I've always said it. Some of the other like Ollie and aspects may not agree with me here, but LR back then, fresh, we could do, and like maybe even Joe Mahogany is in chat. Maybe he might agree with me as well.
Yeah,
Back then, LR was like new. What we did was new.
yeah,
Like the videos we made, the shit we would do, like blowing up vehicles and the way we would attack people was all new.
yeah,
But it comes to a point where you literally cannot, like, with our server's meta, and the way our server works. Hang on, is your chat freaking out because of the internet? Or is it back?
yeah. I'm pretty sure I
I
am.
think it's back. I think it's back. I see it.
Yeah, sweet, sweet.
But anyways, so essentially back then LR was fresh. It was new. We could do all these brand new ideas.
Yeah,
And then it kept progressing and progressing and progressing, and then it come to a point where it wasn't even LR's fault anymore. And this is what I strongly believe.
yeah,
I genuinely believe that it was because the server was so stale for so long.
yeah,
Like, we adapted to the current server's meta, And there was just like there's genuinely nothing else you can keep doing other than recycling ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you can't do much with a server that isn't giving you anything else to work with, right?
Yeah.
And that's sort of my main point when it comes to it. Like, yes, Steg used to get angry, um, so much like about like how we were losing our old LR touch and stuff like that. But if we had generated like new shit that the server was bringing into us, we could keep progressing that idea, the main idea of like stories, the main idea of how we would attack people. But it comes to a point, bro, where because LR was so active and our player, but like in our all like members were so active,
Yeah.
you get to a point where you've done everything, bro. You know what I mean? Like you can't keep going. Like, yeah, you could come up with like a tiny fucking random idea, but you can't keep pushing for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Nah,
Um,
I sort of know what you mean. Yeah.
like when the server was stale for so long, you can't like a player base couldn't push for more if there was nothing there to grab. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Nah, I get that. Nah, I get that 100%. Yeah, even when, sort of got into LR, um, even then, um, I think Wrath, I only got to experience, Wrath for such a short amount of time. And I wish I got I don't know, I wish I had that, same experience that other people got.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, like we do come up with some pretty cool ideas, but I know what you mean
Well,
with the
like,
whole
don't get
stealth.
me wrong. Like, I'm not talking shit on the server. Like, I love Aussie, bro. I've been here for fucking ages.
Yeah,
But even management and execs, like, we all have agreed that our server was left at a stale for so fucking long.
yeah,
Um, yeah, we could say like just make your own role play, but it comes to a point where I've said this to managers and execs as well. It comes to a point where like that role play is just going to get worn out. There's nothing else to do.
yeah. No, absolutely.
So that's why this update coming out in fucking what 4 days?
Yeah, we're
Keen,
close.
bro, keen. I've been waiting 3 years for it, man.
Yeah, I think
I've
most
literally been
of
waiting 3 years. So
yeah. No, most I strongly believe that most of the community has been as well. Um, so we didn't get to really touch on this, but Vito Capone,
Big
what's
V.
Big V? How does the storyline start for Vito?
Um, Big Vito, huh? So me and Aspects
Yeah,
joined the PD like maybe 2, 3 years, 2 years ago, I'd say.
yeah,
And we had the strongest accents, and our role play was like we were straight imports.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Um, and like we'd role play fucking the way we got here was like selling our mum and dad's goats and shit like that.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
From
and we'd have
Italy.
this, yeah, we'd have the strongest accents, and we'd just simply just have fun.
Yeah,
And this is when aspects wasn't working, so we would grind cop up
yeah,
until like 4 a.m. and just enjoy ourselves.
yeah. Was that how it was before? Like you could just stay on cop for that
So
long?
this is one thing I'm really looking forward to an update, and I'm really hoping it comes back. And like some of the OGs in chat will agree with me.
Yeah,
Like I really hope that I could wake up at 10 a.m. bro and get on cop, and I'd have a server to play cop with.
yeah,
Like and like you could stay up till 5, 6 a.m. back then, and there'd still be 90 to 100 players on, and you could still grind cop. Like you could still play cop like you're playing cop now in prime time.
yeah,
And it was like a whole different life. Like it was like you'd have your cops that would grind during the day,
yep,
and then you have your cops that grind during the night.
yeah. So you're not
It was
shift day
like
shift.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was night shift, day shift people, bro,
yeah.
and it was fun as fuck.
Yeah,
Um, it was honestly real fucking fun, man. But like with Vito, aspects sort of dropped off cop. He didn't really play it as much anymore.
yeah,
And that's when I started taking cop seriously, and that's when I started grinding cop a lot more over crim.
yeah,
Um, and then I got to, I think, can't remember what rank I got to before restructure, but I was flying through the ranks.
yeah.
Like I'd get a promo maybe once every week and a half.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty
I
good.
got, and then I got SRT. SRT I flew through the ranks as well, dude. Like I hit Tango 3, which was supervisor.
Yeah,
Um, and supervisor back then was so fucking OP. Like if you were a supervisor in SRT, you were the most OP thing walking.
yeah.
Like you had every two-hander, you'd have your beanbag, you'd have your sniper, you'd have the fucking charger,
Snipers
Hellcat.
even.
It was a heavy sniper, yeah, man. Like you could
Yeah,
just have a heavy sniper. And then the restructure hit, and that's when I like full grinded cop. Like I straight out grinded the fuck out of cop.
so cop back then versus what it is now, um it's obviously a massive change. I've tangos and hotels and all that.
It was a lot. That system was a lot funner back then than it is now.
Yeah,
in
why do you
my
say that?
opinion. I loved the Tango call signs. Like I loved Highways call signs. Like it was shut up, Lou, bro. It was just I don't know. It just created that immersion that was just different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've been trying to push for Tango call signs back on SRT. Like just those little things were just different, and it was better in a sense. Shut up, Max. Um, Nah, man, but like COP back then was a lot funner than it is now. Like I don't know if I'm like COP now might be fun for like new players.
Yeah.
But for like us OG players, COP back then was 10 times funner, I'd say.
Yeah.
Because there was just more people to interact with, bro. Like anytime you just interact with people, there's always something popping off.
I suppose as the server evolved, I'm pretty sure like the cop role itself also evolved as well. Like I feel like now I enjoy doing cop and stuff like that, but like with things with like SOPs and stuff like that, were they as strict back then as what it is now, or was it a lot more lenient?
Um, I want to say SOPs back then weren't as strict as they are now. Nah.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was maybe because we had so many officers back then, and there was just there was like the day shift, night shift people. But maybe it was stricter. I don't know. Like, King actually might be right. Maybe it was stricter. I just never experienced it. Um,
So it was stricter back then, but you were flying through the ranks.
I was just flying through the ranks. I think it was because like, I was friends with all like the higher ups because a lot of the higher ups back then were staff members.
Yeah.
And that was back then when I was an admin as well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
What
maybe it
was
was stricter, bro.
what was admin like back then versus what it is now as well? Because talking to Marnie yesterday, admins he mentioned like an admin actually like role played him getting banned. Whereas like if I were to do that now, I'd probably like lose my privileges, right? So like how is it like how is admin back then to what it is now? Has
Fuck,
it always been the
admins
same
back
or
then. Here's the difference, right?
yeah.
And I'm at fault here too. Admins back then, because we had such a high player base,
Yeah.
and we could afford just banning players for doing shit that was stupid.
Yeah.
We were gronks. We were all gronks back then.
What
Um,
admins or managers?
yeah, all of us, man. Like
Yeah.
I'll happily say it. Like back then, man, like you couldn't get away with anything with an admin. Like when I got manager, the main thing I wanted to push was education over punishment.
Yeah.
Um, but like even before I was manager, bro, when I was an admin, like I think I had the highest amount of like fucking punishments, bro. Because I was just like, I get hot headed in HD and stuff like that, and I was just a shit person to come to in HD. Sometimes I was good, sometimes I wasn't.
Yeah.
But I definitely pulled up on that heavy. Like I'm nowhere near like what I was back then. But back then it was just the environment of the staff team. Like you had Dawson, who was an absolute gronk.
Yeah.
You had like 10 past, you had clumsy, and like we would all just it was just a lot less careless in a sense of losing a player. Like now we lose a player and it's sort of like fuck. You know what I mean? We can't really afford to lose that player.
Yeah.
Back then it was just we had so many players generating through the server where we didn't really care who fucking like who we banned. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. And do you think those players will come back with the update or
I
sort of
did see a lot of those players come back when we lifted all the bans.
I do remember that, yes. Yeah, it got
I
pretty
did see a
hectic.
lot of those. Yeah, I did see a lot of those players come back. I even got DMs from some of those players like, "Ah, fuck you, I'm back in the server."
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like it was fucking crazy, man.
Do you do you like the direction that Aussie's going now with the update and everything like that?
I do, man. I really do. Like a massive thing for like me, Wrath, Dan. There's a couple of other of us. Goliath is a big person on it too. It
Yeah.
just comes being like management and like the heads of the server. It become too much in a point of we'd promise the community shit and we wouldn't deliver.
Yeah.
Like 3.0, for example, like that actually took a massive toll on a lot of us higher ups that we just felt so like useless. You know what I mean? Like we couldn't dev, we couldn't. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
just it was shit. It was a shit feeling knowing that the player base was getting lied to.
Yeah. Give me 1 sec. I think the internet's bugging.
Yeah, I see.
But yeah, like I said, I do have a recording, so I can. Yeah, it'll be up on YouTube and everything like that. Um, but
Yeah, this stream just died.
yeah, it should be. Is it back up now?
Uh, yes, it
Alright.
is. It is. It is. It is. Sup, people. Sup, peoples.
What's goody? What's goody?
Um, no, but to continue what I was saying, like it just like I management copped a lot of shit for the 3.0 shit, right?
Yeah.
And it was really shit seeing every time we'd release like a dev update back then, like the community's reaction would be foul.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be like them hyped up like they are now.
Yeah.
It would honestly be like shitty fucking like thumbs down reactions or laughing clown emojis and bro, we just look like fucking a meme, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But nah man, like big shout out to Wrath especially, bro. Like he definitely is a massive part in turning the server back around.
Mm.
Um, but like, I love the way Aussie is now, man. We've got a solid dev team. Our devs are actually motivated to do dev work.
Yeah.
Management, we're all motivated to like help where we can, and um, yeah, man. Like especially like the update having a set date and me playing the main dev server and seeing what we actually have. Like, it's definitely I'm definitely excited about it.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy that this time we can actually offer the community what they've wanted. Um, and not do a whole 3.0 V2 sort of thing where we promise a date and it never happens. And yeah,
Speaking of giving the community what they want, is there anything you can sort of get us hyped up for the new update? Is there anything you wanna share that we don't know yet, or am I asking for too much?
there's not really much, man. Like a lot of it gets leaked in dev updates.
Yeah. Is there?
All I can say, man, is like Aussie's going to be really unrecognizable to what it is now.
Yeah. Do you, is
Um,
there anything? This is more of like a yes or no.
yeah,
In the trailer that's been presented to us, is there
yeah.
anything in that trailer that's not there that you think is pretty cool? If that makes sense. So
That's not coming out. That was in the trailer.
that wasn't in the trailer, but is coming out in the new update.
Um, fuck, man. Vendors was in the update, but the way vendors work is really fucking sick.
Yeah.
Um, I really wish I could go into detail about it, but I
No,
don't think
no,
I'm
it's
allowed
yeah.
to.
I was gonna say it's more of a
Um,
yes or no sort of thing. I didn't want to
nah,
want to
man.
get
But
you in
like,
trouble or anything.
what I will say is KO Perico, especially.
Yeah.
And the way KO works and the way you get stuff over to KO is very fucking unique and it is very cool. Um, and it's not going to be like how Aussie originally was, and it was like a E simulator in a circle. You know what I mean? Like grinding drugs and
Yeah.
pressing E, and it's a lot more interactive, which is amazing. And it's something I've always wanted to push for in Aussie, and we finally have it. So
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's gonna be pretty cool. I wonder how. I wonder is drug running still gonna be a thing
yeah,
or
drug running is definitely going to be a thing.
it's sweet.
My vape
Um.
just died. Yum.
Oh, worst isn't it?
So got a new packet ready. Don't stress. Anyway,
So, I'm gonna drag up aspects.
drag him up. Get him in here.
Let's get him in here. Let's get him in here. Aspects.
Big aspects.
Yo, what's going on?
Yo, it was goody. Caught,
How
caught
we
you off
doing?
guard
What's
there.
going on, gentlemen?
What's going on, gentlemen?
What's going on,
Aspects.
gentlemen?
What's going on?
Aspects. Give us the old fucking the old Vito and Chris accent, bro. I can't do it anymore. On my new mic.
What is man? What's going on, mate?
Pretty
There it
sophisticated.
is.
Pretty
I
sophisticated.
love
Hit us
it.
with.
I appreciate it, mate. Hey, I
See,
tell you one thing, mate. This guy knows how to do it, you know?
He stole that off me, bro. I started bringing in the appreciated and shit.
Yeah, and
like
I just did it better, you know what I'm saying?
like, bro, me and Aspects were that bored early in the morning, dude, where we would literally drive up to Sivs
Yeah.
and we'd be like, "Sure, babes, how are ya?" Like, we'd like
There's
interact
clips
with
of it as
Sivs.
well. The
Yeah.
thing was is that when we made our cop character, is like
Shut up,
we were,
Edison.
we were up till like 8 a.m.
Yeah, like we grind cop from like 8 to 8 a.m. It was fucking insane.
That's mental. That's mental. How was the like recruitment process back then?
The stream's dying again, yeah.
Is it?
Aspects, or is it me?
Fuck, yeah.
Nah,
I
nah,
blame man, I thought.
nah. It's me.
I
Yeah.
blame Anatone as well, bro. To be honest, I reckon Aussie's whole downfall is on Anatone.
It's like the whole like summer media.
Yeah, Summer Media's just shocking.
Mm.
I'm
Once
your
it,
biggest fan. I'm your biggest fan too, April. Don't worry.
hopefully we're back up and running in a sec.
Your stream sucks, Nick.
I know, and you know it's crazy because like I fucking know how to fix it, but I just haven't done it yet.
That is just pure fucking laziness.
What's your bit rate?
Not too sure, mate.
Yeah, it's probably your issue.
Probably, but I
Please
think we are
practice.
back live. Just got to quickly do this. I feel like I've got to do this quickly. We are here with ASPEX, business owner, developer, org. He's he's an org member, org leader, staff, content coordinator. So technically my boss still somehow. But even outside of Aussie, he's a graphics designer, does photography. You've done everything, eh?
Yeah, mate. Videography, the whole lot.
Everything. Far out, GFX and all that.
He's a bit of a gronk.
Oh, I mean, it comes with it when you do everything, you know, especially when
Exactly,
you do
mate.
it.
I wish me and Aspects like had more clips of even when me and him were on Crim, bro. When like, Zen died and stuff like that, and brothers like, it was fun times, bro.
Mate, the Dora the Explorer was the best one.
It was. Aspects called Dora the Explorer cute. Oh, that cracked me up.
Oh, I think I seen
Yeah,
that somewhere.
I showed you that last night.
Oh, okay, yeah. Freaky. That's freaky.
The worst thing about Aspects back in the day was he was a serious role player, so he'd never do shootouts.
Yeah.
Every time someone piped to him, who do you think the person he'd call was?
I've
Then he tried telling me off about it afterwards. Like that was probably the
Yeah.
I can name one time that actually I've witnessed that. So I'll bring this up. This was when it was, I don't know if I was in Alara or not at the time, but I was in Bahama Mamas and Aspects. You sort of introduced Arcadius to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these two guys from Crips, came up with this idea and they wanted to implement it. So I was like, all right, we'll have this meeting. We'll go to the Papadopoulos villa, and we met. We had this long conversation, man. It went for ages, and we're talking about like businesses and our life stories and everything like that. I think I'm bugging again. Far out. Can you hear me?
Your stream's down.
Far out.
You're
Like I
live again
said-
though.
Like I said, it's recording, so it'll be up on YouTube. But yeah, we were talking about like our life story and everything like that, and then and I remember we had left. We were leaving, and at the time, the Order and the Crips, they were beefing, and somehow, some way, the Order knew that the Crips, or like two of these Crip members were at the villa. So as soon as we left, we were wrapping it up. We went outside. Out of nowhere, those members just came off the roofs and hands like all of us, and then I remember they didn't get me and you Aspects, but
No.
I remember straight away you got on the phone with Surp, and was like this like as soon as after like no joke like I remember the response time was mental like within probably the first I don't know 60 seconds after that phone call like Surp was there. Surp and like a bunch of the other LR boys were like at the doorstep of the villa. That's how quick that response time was. But I don't know, like, do you remember that?
I got an apology out of them. They apologized to you and Aspects as well.
Yeah.
That was fun roleplay, bro. Yeah.
Actually, I never got that apology.
I think Aspects might have got it.
Yeah, Aspects.
Yeah, I just didn't pass it on to you.
Oh, okay, no, fair enough. Typical. Nah, but yeah. So yeah, no, I remember that. Yeah, quite clearly. But yeah, it was definitely one of those examples of Aspects. Calling
Phone
you up
upset.
because yeah, I'm in trouble. I better call Surp. But yeah, so
Now you can wrap it up with me and hit Aspects if you want. I might go play some
Done.
call.
Easy. Enjoy Cop. I suppose Surp, thank you so much for jumping on the stream. Appreciate your time, man. But we'll get stuck into aspects.
No worries. Big shout out to Kitty Cat Lover 82. He's my biggest fan, and yeah, Candace looking cute as always.
Always. Shout out
All
to
right.
Candace.
I'm off.
Take
Catch you
care, man.
later.
See you, bro. Thanks for joining. So yeah, just to sort of yeah, man. I think with you and I, like my first interaction with you was I crashed into you at Beakers, you and Dazza.
Yeah.
And the reason why I came up to Beakers was because I was after a job. And I remember like that was sort of my first interaction. But you know, from being like, you know, the new guy in town to, you know, successful business owner and everything like that, sort of where does the story begin? You got Dimitri, you've got Chris Capone, and do you have any other, I suppose, characters or anything like that?
Yeah, my last character slot is more so like a an ever changing slot.
Yeah,
so
yep.
it's always based on like a storyline that I either want to do or usually Safety and I want to do.
Yeah.
So what it's currently set to is was my Vargos character.
Oh yes, yes. El Pepe.
Yeah, El Pepe.
El
Juanita
Pepe.
Cortez III.
You are really committed to that accent.
Yeah, I mean that was like full voice changer on whenever I was out doing the accent as well as the voice changer.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was no slip ups, never.
You were really
And
committed.
same with Safety. Safety, he put a voice changer on deep in his voice, and all he ever said was, his name's Jeff.
Was it? Yeah. Was it Jeff?
I think it was it Jeff or what was it?
It was something the third. My name is.
Yeah, but you only said his first name.
Yeah, that's right. And then you would
Jose
translate.
was his name. It was Jose.
That's it. And
All
you
he
would
say
translate
was,
for
my
him.
name Jose.
That's it.
That's all he would ever say.
And then you would translate. I remember, yeah, you would screen share for every one of us, and I just sat there for the entertainment. But yeah, no, that's pretty cool. Yeah, so you did all that for the Vargos. I do remember that.
So third character always swaps for a storyline. That one was more so just to try and help out the Vargos when they were first starting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. But yeah, Dimitri is your main character, I'm guessing.
Yeah, Dimitri's always been the main.
Yeah. How long did you have any other characters before Dimitri, or was he?
So there was Dimitri initially, first ever character, and then there was Stavros Giannopoulos.
Yeah.
Who was my EMS.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that was like, had my EMS back when I was with House of Zen. We used to do EMS all the time.
Yeah.
And then I killed off Stavros to make Chris Capone, or it was Chris Adolopoulos.
Oh, yeah.
And then I had to get a name change because the commissioner didn't like how long it was.
Yeah, less paperwork.
Yeah.
So
pretty much.
That's how you became a Capone?
Yeah. Well, I was always his brother, but I just never had the last name.
Yeah.
We always went off that storyline, just wasn't, last name basis.
Nah, I gotcha. So I suppose where does the sort of storyline begin with with Dimitri? Like, what was when you first came into Aussie? What was sort of your purpose, or were you just trying it out? Like, what was that? What happened there?
I started. I'm pretty sure. I think Dreams will be able to correct me, but Dreams had joined Aussie first.
Yep.
And then me and a couple mates, we had a big mate group of people that played games and shit and talked on Twitch and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
He streamed, I streamed on Twitch. So we all knew each other. He started Aussie. And then I think it was about a week or two later, me and my mate Charlie tried it out.
Yep.
Charlie only lasted like a week or two before he got bored of it, but I kept going. And then we had a couple of other mates, Habibi and Tomato, and sort of all of us sort of stuck together, learnt the whole server, figured out what to do, and then sort of went from there, and that's where I met Ollie in RP.
Yep.
Which is Dazza Mahogany.
Yeah.
Dazza Ricardo.
Can't keep up.
Yeah, and so pretty much Ollie and I stuck through it. Like, first day that we met, we kind of stuck through it together.
Yeah.
In the background, pretty much I had met a dude named Tony, which is Junior 99 AU.
Yep.
And so Tony and I met on the side of the street. He was driving a Range Rover, which everyone thinks are cheap nowadays.
Yeah.
But back when I first started and I saw him pull up with a Range Rover in Sandy, I thought he was the richest guy I'd ever met.
Yeah.
I said, next week I'm going to have a Range Rover as well. And
Yep.
he's like, you're not going to have a Range Rover. You know how much this thing costs?
Yeah. How much was it back
And
then?
I was like, it was like 50K, I think.
Yeah.
But back then there was like, if you had $1 million in your bank account, you were the richest person on the server.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's
So
what
money
it
was
like.
tight.
Money was tight, and then the rich people were the ones that were, and I'll get into it, that were gambling and then buying the very limited cars and stuff.
Yeah. So yeah. So you got into, you were influenced to play by your mates and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them dropped off, but you sort of persisted and kept playing. So what was your, like, where did Dimitri sort of go from there? Like, after your friends like dropping out, did you lose motivation at all back then, or what?
No, I
what sort of-
didn't.
Yeah.
So pretty much, I had my character, and from day dot when I flew in, I had one outfit which was a black suit.
Yep.
I used to have a thicker chin. I was pale, but I always wore the same black suit, turtleneck. Italian black loafers.
Yep. Yeah. Committed.
Yeah, and so pretty much our friend group, along with a couple others like Chow Lee, who people might know.
Yep.
We wanted to start a sort of org. We were rolling together. We were running out of a house, and we had plans to, I think, come up with some sort of like loan company.
Yeah.
But we were running drugs. We would wake up at like 6 a.m. in the morning, grind drugs the whole day. I would be going off, to work, at 6 a.m. in the morning some days.
Yep.
On like weekends and that. And these boys would still be in call from the night before, just running drugs, pushing money, cleaning money. So that's what we were sort of doing.
That's sort of crazy how like
Yeah.
the culture back there was about, I suppose, running drugs and I suppose like 6 a.m. 5 a.m. in the
It's
morning.
very different to now.
Yeah.
It was like they would be up all night, all morning,
Yeah.
and go to bed in the morning. Like when I'd started work, they were just hopping off.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like everyone was on back then at those times, just running drugs.
Yeah.
And it was like you always knew who you were gonna bump into at the drug spots. If you ever needed to, go and see someone, they'd be there.
Yeah.
People were tight knit then.
What was
they
like?
cared about each other and not cops.
What was roleplay back then? Like, yeah, like the interactions and the social places sounded like they were only the drug spots. Was there ever interactions outside of drug spots and locations and stuff like that?
Yeah, it was drug spots, businesses, sometimes people's like so-called homes.
Yep.
Which no one really owned, same as now.
Yeah.
There was just all over the place. People sort of knew where people resided out of, and where you could find them. Where gangs had their sort of territory and location. That's where you could find them.
So how did, like, you said you and your group, really were really close, running a lot of drugs, and you guys wanted to create sort of like a gang or like an organization. How did that sort of come about?
So pretty much we wanted to start that just based off of how much drugs we were pushing and how big we were sort of getting for how sort of small we were on the server.
Yeah.
Because at this point we were only like a month in,
Yep.
probably, and we were pushing more money than anyone else, but we still didn't have the ability to clean money, so we wanted to become an org and try and get a business. Because back then it was mainly like org members / leaders who own businesses.
Yeah.
Sort of similar to how it is now. But yeah, so we wanted to start an org, but that sort of never worked out because everyone sort of split ways. Around that time was when the Gentlemen's Club happened. So Tony and Chow went off to the Gentlemen's Club.
Yep.
And then, the whole sort of group split apart.
So there
and
was
I
a
started moving towards more business means. So
yeah,
I went into the the casino industry.
yeah. And so like because of that divide, everybody went their own ways. This is
Mhm.
when you. So you said you got into the casino industry. What was the casino like back then? Like how did
So
that sort
there
of
wasn't a
operate?
casino, right? But pretty much there was a group that were pretty much a mafia,
Yeah.
the Revaducci family. Yeah, people will know Slip the Revaducci.
Yep.
He had his brother Frankie, bunch of other boys, and I sort of got close with them. Same as one of my IRL mates,
Yep.
and we got close with that, and they sort of seen the value that we were bringing to the business and how dedicated we were to the RP, because they were like, if you wanted some serious RP, you would go to catch up with them.
Yeah.
You would have a laugh. You would have serious RP. You'd get into all that, and there was never sort of a bad time. And that was like, if you wanted to see them, you went to Vanilla Unicorn, which at the time was run by um, Jenna, and she was running VU, but pretty much business was dead, but we were running a casino out the front of it. So we were doing gambling and stuff like that, dice games.
Yeah.
And we got into that, and pretty much it got so big to the fact that we were pushing millions and millions every night. We were taking cars from people, we were draining people's bank accounts. People were taking out loans, they were selling vehicles to others to get money to push to us.
That's it. Like the house always wins, right?
Pretty much. So our odds were so high in us winning, and Slip was a really good person to do sort of hands at and stuff like that. So he would run all the games. I would be behind him. Anytime he had a large pocket of money, he would give it to me. I would
Yep.
run inside VU, chuck it in my bank account, come back out, grab the next lot of $1 million, and keep doing that for the whole night.
Oh my gosh.
We would have security on roofs, all that sort of stuff.
That's mad. I think that's pretty cool. I wish it was something like that because before the casino came, or maybe a little bit after it, I was doing. Papi showed me how to do like the dice rolling thing,
Yeah.
but he taught me how to like sort of rig it. So I was doing it for a little bit.
Yeah.
It was that. Was that sort of how you sort of done it as well?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
There was different games. There were some games that had higher odds. Don't get me wrong. There was people that were winning,
Yeah.
but people would win really big and then just put it all back down and lose it. And they
Yeah.
didn't care because they were having the time of their life.
Yeah.
They were having us. We would have, myself and Slip would be, in the circle, and there'd probably be like 20 to 30 people around us just gambling.
Yeah.
And all the boys would be, taking notes of names and money and spreadsheets and cars and everything like that. And so we would walk away with, sometimes a couple million to 10 million. I would be having a new car every week, would be taking people's mercs off of them, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think that's pretty cool, like to sort of come up like that. Doing the whole gambling thing. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, you had that whole scene going on and everything like that. What sort of happened after that?
It got to the point where greed came into place.
Yeah.
So Slip was very greedy. He didn't want to split what wasn't others. He wanted it all to himself. I had sort of plans to expand the business, and I put in an application for a casino.
Yeah.
It was going to be at 811 at that sort of resort on the beach.
I do remember you showed me the blueprint. I thought that was
the
pretty
Jewel
cool.
Casino.
That's
We're
it.
gonna have, the whole casino inside. We're gonna have the pool on the outside and the bar and everything like that.
Would have been a vibe.
And then pretty much, I got no accreditation. I sort of slowly started getting shoved out, and so I didn't turn against them, but I resented them.
Yeah.
And that was when I started getting closer. I was always close with Ollie throughout this whole time.
Yeah.
And Ollie had, at that verge, Ollie had just joined House of Zen.
Yep.
And and so I was hanging out with Ollie Moore in House of Zen, and then I eventually got offered a spot in House of Zen, so I moved to them.
Yeah. So you just like hung around and they offered you a spot, or was there more RP to that?
Yeah,
And-
so I mean, there was probably a bit more. I was sort of hanging around them, helping protect, because at the time there was the Crips as well.
Yep.
So it was the OG Crips, Deshaun and Six and all them. So we were trying to defend them against the Syndicate.
Yep.
Who were trying to take their spot. So I was trying to help out with them as much as I could, and be masked up, and I had sort of had this alter ego compared to my normal suit.
Yep.
And yeah, I think over time, sort of, I stuck around them, and I got offered a spot, and yeah.
So, yeah, you got into House of Zen. What sort of like role play, like interactions did you have with like other orgs and stuff like that? Was there much like org wars and anything like that, or was it very like?
There was a lot of org wars and beef, because House of Zen was known as like the org that you didn't fuck with. Like we would win every shootout.
Yeah.
We had the best shooters, even with crosshairs at the time.
Yeah.
We were always a laugh. We'd push mad drugs. We'd be the only sort of org that was pushing, doing 1,000 runs by ourselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's a lot of like war RP, meeting RP, banter with the boys, hanging out at businesses, running different businesses, cleaning money, running all that sort of cleaning through different people like Slip and Eric Cartman and stuff like that at the time.
Yeah.
And then sort of all throughout this, Ollie and I were working at Beakers as well.
Yeah.
So on top of like all the gambling thing, we were also working at Beakers. And so I think it was about like a couple weeks into the server, Ollie and I got our job at Beakers.
Yep.
And we would sort of just stand out the front of Beakers, say hi to customers, always be there. We were there like non-stop every day.
Yeah.
Eventually, the manager, Josh, offered us a job. We got a job, climbed the ranks there, got up to senior mechanic.
Yep.
And then we were there for a little bit, and Hector Mendoza, who was the owner at the time, wasn't really active, and we didn't feel like we were being, I guess, paid our value. So we went up and left and went to LSC.
All right.
Sort of less to sort of work there, because at the time it was the brothers that were owned there, so Ari and all them.
Yep. Yep.
It was more so to make a stand against Hector.
Yeah.
And so we did that, and 2 days later, he offered us a job back as manager.
Yep.
So we took that, and then a week later, we put a business application in for Beakers to take over.
Yeah.
And he got the sack, and we got ownership of the business.
Nice. What was that like? Sort of owning your first, business.
We were like, it was pretty eventful, because Ollie and I were still pretty new at this point to be owning a business. Like everyone knew us and stuff like that, but we weren't like heaps of months in or years in compared to other business owners at the time. So we were like the fresh business owners.
Yeah.
And it was pretty mad. It was sort of like a mix of like Ollie's sort of management skills and people skills combined with my people skills and my graphic design skills that made our application good, and we were trying to change things up to compared to the rest, and have proper advertisements and stuff like that. And yeah,
I don't know why, and I don't know if you might take this as an insult, but the way that Ishi and I run LSC, I don't know, like I'd like to compare it to you and Dazza. Ishi, for me, like for the most part, I try and deal with like, the management side and all that. But if I need somebody fired, like I know who to run to, and I can unleash, Ishi on stuff like that.
Sure. It's the same for us.
Yeah, I'm sure like
Ollie doesn't really give a shit.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is, right?
I'll give second chances or or whatever if it's warranted.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't really give a shit as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nah, I think that's, I'm sort of like, I'm you and Ishi's Dazza, except, reversed roles where, he's the owner, I'm the 2IC. So I think that's pretty, I don't know, that's sort of the comparison that I've got. But yeah, anyways, so you get Beakers, you're the owner. What was business like at the start of your run with the Beakers?
We sort of took Beakers when it was absolutely dead.
Yeah.
Like, Hector wasn't around, so the business ran through the ground. There was still a lot of old workers, no sort of new fresh faces or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so Ollie and I kind of took it and dismantled it, built it from the ground up, redid everything, and we sort of built it to a point where no one would actually go to the city for a mechanic.
Yeah.
They would all be up in Polito. We'd be up in Polito, and at the time, Safety was working at Sunshine Autos.
Yeah.
And he sort of got ownership of Sunshine Autos. I think it was a little bit after us.
Yeah.
And so we pretty much got Polito, popping off the charts. Everyone would drive up here. There was cars lined up everywhere. Even if you weren't getting work done, you would just chill there.
Yeah, that's what
we hired great people. Yeah.
When I first got a job at Beakers, that's what Willie and Jack used to say to me. They used to say like, bro, people would just fly in, like just talk to people at Beakers and then fly out, and that was sort of that culture that was set there up at Beakers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
that's pretty much what we wanted, was for it to be a place where people would just hang out.
Yeah.
And not stress. You'd be up in Polito. It wasn't, hustle and bustle of the city. And then sort of alongside having people like Jack and Willie, and then soon after, Adore and a bunch of other people. It was like the dream team.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Nah, that's pretty cool. So yeah, you get Beakers, and then what about we flip the script, we go back into the org side. You're the owner of Beakers, but you've got you're in House of Zen at the same time as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what, any, I don't know, cool RP storylines you want to talk about? The whole House of Zen thing?
I think the main biggest storyline was probably like the one against the OC.
Yeah.
That sort of came to a point where it was pretty like, it got to the point of shootouts and stuff like that, and was pretty intense.
Yeah.
And that sort of coincided with like the RP with Slip at the time, and sort of that whole thing that was going wrong. He was sort of falling apart. People were not liking him and stuff.
Yeah.
So some pretty big RP there, but as time went on, Ollie and I kind of drifted away from House of Zen. They sort of got bored of the server, so they kind of moved servers a bit.
Yeah.
But Ollie and I didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
So they went to a couple other servers like KTG and Zero Remorse.
Mm-hmm.
But Ollie and I were still playing Ozzy.
Yeah.
At the time. I think I had just gotten dev and staff, and Ollie was staff, so we didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
And then ended up getting the boot from House of Zen.
Yeah. So did you get booted,
yeah.
or did it disband?
Kind of booted OOC.
Yep.
We got removed from everything, and so we sort of just went off in RP.
Yeah.
And yeah. Sort of went from there. We stuck to our own, to each other.
Yeah.
And just continued on, and pretty much whatever Ollie did, I did. Whatever I did, Ollie did. From then on out.
So life after House of Zen, what happened then?
So after House of Zen, what happened after that? I'm pretty sure it was it was Vendetta.
Yep.
And so Vendetta happened, and Surp was in Brothers. I can't remember what happened with that.
Yeah.
And then pretty much we were sort of good mates. And he came to sort of Ollie and I and was like, I want to start up Vendetta,
Yeah.
but I need some people alongside me, some 2IC. So
Yeah.
Ollie and I were pretty much 2IC for Vendetta.
That's pretty cool. So you were once an org leader. Oh, 2IC of an org.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. What was that like compared to, business life?
It was difficult with that org. There was a lot of like younger individuals compared to us being a bit older.
Yeah.
So it's hard to sort of manage. But that sort of RP avenue was pretty cool. Obviously my character over time always stuck to sort of the European style
Yeah.
and stuff like that, but I always learned like two different sides to roleplay, which is like the business side, and then there was like the gang side of it.
Yeah.
So I always had these different personas. Like whenever I was in Houses Zen, I was always masked up, but people knew me by my scarf back then.
Yeah.
And then with Vendetta, it was sort of a mix of both worlds. It was, always wearing suits and the blue suits and stuff like that. Finally took the scarf off, and sort of tried to switch things up and have a new start.
Yeah.
And it was very like I tried to do very hardcore mafia.
Yeah.
And I sort of got Surp into it as well. Surp was a bit sort of daydreaming.
Yeah.
So I got Surp into doing the more hardcore mafia. We would do the Italian accents. We would make sure that we were, proper and create good storylines, and we sort of went from there. It was kind of hard to sort of change the other young ones.
Yeah.
But we changed some of them, especially like Zaid at the time.
Yeah.
Zaid was also in House of Zen.
Zaid. Okay. Yeah.
But he came over to Vendetta with us.
Yeah.
And I even managed to get him to shift accents. And you'd see him around when we were doing proper RP, and he was doing an Italian accent.
That's pretty cool.
Always had the cigar in his mouth.
That's pretty big by Zaid. I love Zaid. Like, I don't know. I got a big soft spot for Zaid. Only because I see some of the stuff he does, and his ability to pull off an accent, it's really good. So, yeah, if you've got any clips, man, you got to send it to me after this, eh?
Yeah, for sure.
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah,
so
we went from there.
it's all right. So, you guys got Vendetta, your business owner. Sounds like things you sort of on and off, like, with the how do I say it? Like, still getting settled in with like Vendetta and everything like that being so new. So what was that sort of like, going like transitioning from House of Zen to Vendetta, and sort of making it, your thing?
It wasn't too hard. I don't really have a tough time settling into new characters or new personas or new storylines.
Yeah.
I kind of roll into it. And so it was kind of natural for me because I always wanted to do this sort of mafia roleplay.
Yeah.
That was our sort of intent with the first ever org when, we were a couple weeks in on the server. And so that was pretty fine for me.
Yeah.
We had some pretty cool storylines with like one crew at the time. And that shift between Vendetta and House of Zen was when one crew had first started. And they were originally Mellow Yellow.
Yep.
And then House of Zen, back when we were in House of Zen, we got them to change to orange because we represented gold.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, yep.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that. I didn't know one crew. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so they were all at Sunshine Autos one day, and House of Zen rolled up. We all rolled up on our bikes.
Yeah.
So we toggled between motorbikes and Trackhawks.
Yeah.
At the time, we bought like all the Trackhawks on the server.
Yeah.
And they were going for millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like 3-4 million, which was a lot of money back then. And so we pretty much owned all the Trackhawks on the server.
Yep.
And then we sort of started a bit of beef with them at Sunshine and went from there and got them to change colors. And yeah, that's what happened with that. But we had some pretty good storylines with one crew when we were in Vendetta.
Yeah.
I don't know if people have seen like the points of like the GIF at the docks in the swamps.
You have to send it.
There was like a big sort of ongoing war between us. I can't quite remember what it was over. But we finished it with what was gonna be a peaceful sort of interaction, group on group, at this little barge at the swamps.
Yep.
And what they didn't expect was that in all the bushes all around the area, like a kilometer, and in the water, were all our boys with ARs.
Yep.
And we got them all on their knees.
Oh,
We tried to get one of their members to kill Pitt.
Yeah.
That didn't work, and there was a massive feud, and it went a bit, OOC, and there was some massive drama on that. But it was a pretty good sort of ending and storyline for Ollie, Surp, and I.
I think, Surp was literally like, he had his point of view just earlier in the stream. He did mention the exact same scene that you were talking about, how you guys managed to capture Pitt and make his members turn against him and all that. I think that's pretty cool. Damn, I reckon that's pretty cool. So
we were a very hostile group, but it was only like Ollie and I that were really pushing for trying to make a bit of better RP.
Yeah.
So it was tough.
What happened to Vendetta, like from sort of your point of view?
I mean, Vendetta started to fall apart. Ollie and I sort of drifted away because we were trying to organize all the younger kids that were in the org, and we weren't having a good time, and we had to babysit everyone and shit.
Yeah.
So pretty much it sort of started drifting away, and at the time Wrath and Safety were starting an org, which was Revolution, but before that they were going to be starting a cult. And so Safety had always sort of mentioned it to me here and there, and was like, oh, you should join and shit like that. It was just them two at the time. At the time they wanted to get like, I think it was Penthrox and Skittles and stuff like that to make this cult. And do some, weird church cult shit. And I was like, you know what? I'm really not having fun with Vendetta, so I'm gonna go along with this thing that Safety and Wrath wants to do. And at the time, Wrath was only an admin. Safety and I were still admins, and I was a dev. And so I sort of hatched the plan because I didn't want to sort of just drop out of Vendetta. I wanted to do it a bit bigger. So that's when I started the Dimitri was lost at sea storyline.
Yes. Yeah, tell me about that, because I've seen the video on YouTube and everything like that. So you were Dimitri lost at sea. What happened there?
So pretty much Safety and I hatched this plan for me to have a disappearance and sort of enact like I was dead to get me out of Vendetta. And then when I returned, I would join the Revolution. And at the time, the Revolution was like, it was all hidden. No one knew who was who. We never spoke out about anything and stuff like that. So it was all like an identity sort of based organization. So the plan was to go completely off the grid, and then return like I was dead and had memory lost of what Vendetta was. And sort of went blackout for Revolution.
I think that's pretty cool. Like, it's definitely different from being PK'd from an org. You want to leave. You go lost at sea, and you've got no memory of it. I think that's pretty cool. It's definitely different.
I mean, I still had memory because the whole thing was staged.
Yeah, of course.
But Safety and I were working all this out in RP. And pretty much we decided on the day that everything was going to happen. We took my sailboat. We filmed a sort of little news type story. About how I was sailing around the island.
Yep.
And then sent this sort of final message at the time to Jerome, who was I think they were starting up TPK at the time.
Yeah. Yep.
And I had sort of gotten a bit close with Jerome, which is graphic.
Yep.
And sort of I called him to let him know, like, as the only person that would know that, you know, my boat was crashing and the tides were large and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And pretty much hatched the plan that my boat would crash into the little cove off the shore.
Yep.
I put a note on the ground that had like a message in a bottle in captions and had a message in there. And it was sort of about, you know, how he's a good person and should pursue what he wants to do and stuff like that, and that the city needs change and shit.
Yeah.
And then he had sort of told everyone, he had told all of Vendetta, and this was about like, I think it was like 5 p.m. At the time.
Yeah.
And he had told the whole city, and everyone was sort of active, and people were tweeting about it and stuff like that.
That's pretty cool.
And he had gotten the cops and MCD involved. They would have like all their helicopters out around the shorelines. They would have foot patrol crews trying to scout the mountains looking for me. They were trying to trace and start a trail on what happened to me.
Yeah.
And piece it all together.
Nah, that's mad. Like, yeah, the whole community got behind it.
Yeah. And then the whole time I had really just gone to the clothing store, got a new fit on, wore a mask, got a new haircut, and I was just chilling, masked up with Frank the whole time.
Yeah.
Until it was sort of time for me to return.
Yeah.
And then we sort of hatched this plan where, I think it was like my first ever GTA stream.
Yeah.
And so I turned on my first stream, had like 30 or 40 viewers at the time.
Yeah.
And pretty much just swam to shore.
I heard about this. I heard that. Yeah, you took it that, like, you took the RP that serious that, yeah, you turned on your stream, you were swimming to shore, you had cut all your hair off and all that.
I was in some raggy clothes.
Yeah. You didn't have a phone, you had
shore,
nothing.
And I walked for half an hour.
Yeah.
And I sort of set this little thing up, and I messaged an EMS person, and I was like, hey, can you just sort of go up and down the LSF between this time, just so it was sort of ripe for stream and that there was content happening.
Yeah.
And then I was just, I was butt naked walking in the middle of the LSF highway. EMS person had driven up, and I was sort of doing the drunk walk.
Yeah.
And then I collapsed in front of him, and he was streaming as well. And then he sort of took me back to the hospital, ran an IV, and I was in a private room and stuff like that, and people had come to visit, and wondering what happened, and I sort of went off the fact that I didn't, I'd lost my memory.
Yeah.
And then I dropped the whole video of it, OAC.
That's pretty cool. Fire. Yeah. I sort of envy you for sort of pulling that off as well. Having people coming to visit you at the hospital and everything like that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
the thing was that I never told. The only person that knew truly what was happening was Frank.
Yeah.
Was safety. I didn't even tell Surp, who was the leader of Vendetta.
Yeah.
I didn't tell anyone, so everyone just thought that this was actually something that was happening.
Yeah.
But safety was the only one that knew that it was staged to be the start of the revolution.
That's so cool. That's pretty cool, man. Like I sort of envy you. I know I just said that, but yeah, I really do envy you and safety and all that. Being in that that sort of experience, I think that's pretty cool. So you get into you I suppose you go back to the hospital. You leave, you get discharged and all that. And this is I suppose the new Dimitri Papadopoulos. This is where like La Rev sort of starts for you in your storyline.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, you wanna go like sort of tell me the timeline on all that.
So we were sort of all in the dark. We dropped we dropped our first video after we sort of picked up our first sort of founding 6.
Yep.
Which was Rock and Charlie, the other Dmitry Magma Sharapov,
Yep.
myself, Wrath, and Frank, and Ollie.
Yep. Yep.
And so we started the group. We set out the mission, what we wanted to do. We dropped our first video, and it sort of went from there. It's kind of like hard to explain because it was very like, set in stone, and everything was very serious.
Yeah.
And then we sort of built it from there, being like, the most serious RP that we could, and everyone was, applauding on what we were doing. No one had ever seen it before.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted to be a part of it. Our first pickup after that was Surp. He disbanded Vendetta and joined La Rev. And then sort of went off from there.
I heard the origins of LR, or the very beginning about LR, Surp was saying how, it was basically just info grabbing.
Mm-hmm.
So you dedicate your time on the server just to get as much info as you can, and I think that's pretty cool.
So it was building relations and then doing everything properly and grabbing information. So we'd be filling up chats every minute, every day with information that we could to drop these videos and know more about people than they do.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
And like out of character, you obviously didn't want to get that ruined. Was there a way you kept all that sort of hidden, like the whole LR thing?
No one spoke about LR or anything that we were doing OOC in its entirety.
Yeah.
If people asked what we were doing, we just sort of said, kind of sick of the server or whatever. We're not really playing at the moment. We're just doing our own thing. So that no one would know.
Yeah. That's
and
pretty
we just
cool.
stuck to that way.
And
no one was able to tell anyone anything OOC. Yeah.
And then LR became official. How did that come about, knowing that, it was going to be a big OOC thing, like, there's a new org in town called La Rev. How was that? Like, how did you maintain that sort of, like, secrecy?
Just only interacting with people when it was necessary.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they knew that we were, active and doing stuff by the videos that we were dropping and the information that we knew. That's pretty much what it was.
Yeah. Nah, that's pretty cool. I suppose we're coming close to I suppose present, but I gotta ask this because Mana brought it up yesterday, right? Now, I had my own thing going.
Oh, there we go again.
What's that? What's that, sorry? Yo. Yo, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yo, sorry. So yeah, sorry. Let the stream pick back up. I think you know where I was gonna go with this. But yeah, you knew I had my own thing going for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
With the runners and everything like that. We were really heavy on running acid, being the most highest paying, I suppose, drug at the time. When we came to you with like 17 mil, 20 mil worth of like just dirty money, what was sort of your like, what did you like, what was I don't know, like, what was your sort of reaction to that?
I mean, it was kind of normal for me.
Yeah.
All throughout the time, it's kind of hard to sort of chuck this all in between, but over the time of House of Zen, Vendetta, the start of La Rev,
Yeah.
I was doing my own thing on the side, kind of with a couple people and using the help of sort of the org if shit was needed.
Yeah.
But I was cleaning money and selling guns and selling drugs and buying out as much coke as I could in the city to hold the biggest supply of it.
Yeah.
And so I was cleaning like before that tens of millions of dollars. I'd have sort of heaps of groups and people working for me, spending millions of dollars on drugs, and kept that going. So it was kind of like my normal thing on the side was like I had my business, never sort of got caught by cops ever.
Yeah.
I would make all my money from the business. I'd be making millions. Then
Yeah.
I'd be making millions from drugs, and everything else. So I was stacking up a lot of money.
Yeah. Nah, that's pretty cool. Okay, yeah, that was a bit of a letdown. I thought, oh yeah, crap, like this guy Anthony Tedesco out of nowhere just it wasn't the hype that I thought I was gonna get.
I mean, it's kind of like I expected it more from bigger groups.
Yeah.
I never, I would always get smaller amounts from smaller groups. There was some like occasional,
Yeah.
but for like you and some others being so sort of small and pushing that amount and having the consistency, that was the shocking part, was you having RP as well as being able to make money.
Yeah. Yeah. I was definitely learning at the time, and I'm only bringing this up because Mana brought it up yesterday. But I had one of my first org meetings was with the Lost, and we're in this car park and we're having a chat, and one of the questions that was brought up was who cleans your money, and I dropped your name. Now
Yeah.
I know who told you, and it was weird because I didn't think it was gonna be that person, because I don't know, like because he was the one that sort of made me, or sort of helped me or enabled me to make all that I suppose dirty money at the time. But what was your like sort of initial reaction when you found out? Was that like, yeah, what sort of happened there
Um,
when I snitched on you basically?
it was a bit of a letdown, but
Yeah.
I sort of knew that your intentions, and I always knew like how you're sort of, what's the word? How you sort of thought of things, how you came up with ideas,
Yeah.
what your thinking pattern was. So I knew what your intentions were. I was always like reading, what you would be thinking and stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. No, I just had to. I don't know. I just wanted to, yeah, sort of ask you about that. I'd never really asked you before. I thought I'd probably ask you now. All right. So I suppose we're up to present day with Dimitri. Chris Capone. How did that sort of like, you and Surp were sort of just playing around, or what happened there?
So at the time, we wanted to make cop characters, but we wanted to sort of do something different, and Sepp and I were always close and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whenever we got the chance, we were always, singing, drifting in my capella and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so we were sort of like, oh, let's just make a cop character,
Yeah.
but let's make him like Italian Gronks that everyone
Yeah.
hates.
Yeah.
And so he did Capone, and I sort of tried to keep going along with my theme of doing really long Greek last names.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did Christodoulos,
Yep.
and then it was Christopoulos, because
Yep.
we had to change it. And sort of went from there. We did the accent, we had the hair, we had the looks. Everyone loved us but hated us. We always spoke when not spoken to.
Yeah. Yep.
And that was like one of the best like beginnings of a character.
Nah, that's pretty cool. So put the characters aside. You were an admin. Well, are you still an admin?
No,
No. Oh, so you're just the coordinator and a developer, right?
yes, correct.
So how did you get into developing? Like, how did you from where you began and all that? How did how did all that actually come about? Like, how does a developer become a developer?
It started back in House of Zen.
Yeah.
Pretty much at the time, the main devs were like Shams and Bob
Yeah.
and Boss, And pretty much House's End we had just been approved, and we wanted all clothing, so we asked Shams to do it, and Shams was like, yeah. Kept asking and asking, never happened.
Yep.
We waited about, can't even remember. I think it was months and months, maybe up to like 8 months.
Yeah.
And we didn't get clothing, so I was like, you know what? Let me just see how hard it is because I have a design background and I'll do it.
Yeah.
Ended up making our clothing. Learned how to sort of test the files and stuff. Sent it to Shams. Got put in the next day.
Right. Did you get like invited to the dev team after that, or how did that?
No, so I just kept on making stuff, and I used to just put it. At the time, they forgot to lock the dev leak channel.
Yeah.
So I was just posting photos of like clothing that I was making and shit from my private server in the dev leak channel.
Yep. Yep.
And people were sort of always supporting it, and people always liked the shit that I was doing. I put a dev application in.
Yep.
It took about 6 months for someone to actually hear me out to become a dev.
Yep.
It took me forever to actually get developer. I had to go through Zayden, and I was helping him out. Even when I wasn't a developer, I made the loading screen. It was like the first ever thing that I did.
Yeah.
Was making the new loading screen.
So when you became a dev, they sort of just assign you, tasks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that sort of how it works in the back end?
Yeah. So I was doing clothing and some other smaller pieces.
Yeah.
Became a dev, and I was doing all that.
Yeah.
And then I lost dev back when I was in House of Zen.
Yeah.
There was a bit of like a feud that happened in the Discord between a couple orgs and Shams and stuff like that, and I was admin at the time.
Yeah.
I got admin way before dev.
Yeah.
I was support with safety.
Okay.
I got support, and then I got admin. I think it was like 6 days later.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was like the quickest person to get it compared to, I think, like really old person who was, I think their name was like started with an F or something like that. I can't remember. But yeah, it was like 6 days, and I was admin at the time the feud happened. Houses in, and a bunch of orgs were going against like Shams, and I think Boss was banning people from the Discord, from the server for like speaking out or saying something. And I unbanned the leader of House Zen, who was AP.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I unbanned him from the Discord because I saw that he got banned by Boss for saying like some stupid shit that shouldn't get you banned. So I unbanned him.
Yeah.
And then woke up the next morning, and I'd been removed from everything. And yeah, and then I had to wait. I was trying to talk it out. I had people like Zayden and other executives trying to sort of be on my side and trying to get me back in.
Yeah.
But there was no sort of convincing Boss.
Yeah.
Took months and months. It was about 6 months later until I actually got Dev back.
Yep.
And it got to the point where Boss sort of realized that I was an asset to the team and I was valuable and they needed me.
Yeah.
So let me back, and it took a bunch of pushing from like Molotov and Narutoku and Wrath and a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
This was like Halloween 2 years ago.
Yep.
And yeah, and then I got that back and just kept on going from there, and I was pretty much like the main dev. Shams had gone. I was the main dev compared to Boss, next to Boss.
Yeah.
And we were just sort of a hand-in-hand team that was sort of pushing as much as we could, and I was changing as much as I could and doing clothing for orgs and server-side stuff and fixing up assets and making the server look nice.
Yeah.
My first ever thing that I did, I think it was like before I got dev back again, was make the OzzyGaming rebrand, which is what you're sort of starting to see.
Yeah, yeah, they're slipping it through with the yeah,
So that I made that 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
yeah.
The initial draft of it was probably about 3-4 years ago.
That's pretty cool. You know, you like, it must be pretty cool. Like, are you allowed to just go onto the dev server and just check out like all the new stuff and all that?
Yeah, I can go throughout whatever I want.
That's pretty cool. I'm jealous. Like, I'm really envious of that, but at the same time, I also
It's
knowing
a lot
that
of work as well.
yeah, knowing
The
that
thing was is like I was through 2 series of being a dev.
yeah,
And back when it was sort of just Boss and I was doing like hours and hours worth of work, you know, tens of hours a day,
yeah,
designing stuff, you know, creating new bank heists and all that sort of shit, and trying to like please people on the server. And I was putting in so much time in between that and working and trying to still, you know, make money IRL and stuff like that.
did you ever get like
I was
burnt
devoting,
out?
yeah, I never got burnt out.
No.
Um, and so I was like pushing so much. Like I was doing more work than anyone had ever done.
Yeah.
Um, and then like, you know, a bunch of stuff happened, and Boss was like, took a while, but the only person at the time that was like, I guess, appreciative.
Yeah.
And so that was like when I was doing a shit ton of work. That was when I got like my R35.
The villa. I've always wanted to know about the villa. Like, how did you like convince?
So I got my R35. And that was sort of a semi-easy convincement.
Yeah.
Because I was doing so much.
Yeah.
And then, Boss and I were with like creativity and stuff like that. And I would always like show him pictures of like shit that I was working on my own server.
Yeah.
And like he always knew that I role played out of that mansion, even like before it had an MLO.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I kind of like had this conversation with him one day, and he was like, "Oh, like I've seen this MLO for your villa. Do you want it?" And
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, it's in the server now for you."
Oh, that's mad.
And then the next day, I just fixed up some stuff in the MLO and retextured some pictures and that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he kind of offered that to me.
That's pretty cool. I think my stream's bugging again, but we should be good. That's pretty cool. Is there anything like in the new update that you're looking forward to and stuff like that? I suppose having a grind again to be the Dimitri Papadopoulos that we all know.
Yeah, I think the main thing for me is racing.
Yeah.
Because that was something that I worked closely on and pretty much built on the server.
That's right. The underground and all that.
Yeah. So
That's pretty cool.
there's a lot of stuff that like I can't cover all at once with like the character and the shit that I do.
Yeah.
In character and out of character, but one of them as well was the underground, and I sort of, whenever I was having these sort of slow points on the server, I'd always try and make something new.
Yeah.
Underground was one of them, as well as like several other businesses.
Arcadius.
Things like Arcadius and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the underground was started with a bunch of boys that are in Revolution, and it was mainly just Safety and I.
Yeah.
And Rock.
Yeah. Yep.
And we started the underground, and we were doing, you know, small races, and our first races would have, you know, 20, 30 people. We'd be racing a ton, and we started the Discord. We were anonymous. We had this alternate persona. I started the whole sort of storyline with it. Whenever I'd start like something like this or a business, I always started a document on it.
Yeah.
And sort of wrote down everything that was happening in the whole storyline and planned stuff out, built a Discord, built all the tracks. And we sort of did that for like a year and a half, just kept on doing that. And it had some stop and starts towards the end. At the moment, it's sort of not active. It'll be more active and on update.
Yeah.
But that was all based off of like memory and memorizing tracks and practicing them and all that sort of stuff.
That's pretty cool. Man, I think we've covered everything, but is there anything else you wanted to talk about, or you wanted to, I suppose, let everybody know?
really sure. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff like Arcadius and what I do with that, and then even sort of outside the city and stuff I do. But it's up to you.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, you've started Arcadius, you and Frank. It was really really small. It was just it was just you and Frank at the time, and then how did what is the storyline with Arcadius and everything like that?
So I always had this sort of rich ego about me.
Yeah,
Um, and sort of Frank and I were like pretty much like Ollie and I, like two peas in a pod, like
yeah,
hand in hand with each other. Um, and he owns Sunshine, and I own Beakers. We always had plans to sort of merge them together and create a business and stuff like that.
yeah,
And we were always sort of talking about how all these other business owners are doing everything wrong,
yeah,
and
yeah,
how we're the only like proper business owners and shit like that.
yeah,
So we started like these sort of rich men storylines where we would chuck on a suit and then try and buy like the PD,
yeah,
or try and buy a business, or act like we owned a place so that we were buying a new skyscraper or some shit.
yeah,
And then just sort of continued on that and formed Arcadius and started doing all these like meetings and trying to invest in like VU and different companies and startups and ideas that I had and that he had,
yeah.
and went from there.
Nah, that's pretty cool. Arcadius now, I think we do have a pretty cool team.
Mm.
I must say.
Arcadius is very stop and start.
Yeah,
It's like it's not dead at the moment. It's sort of just standstill.
yeah.
We're
And
waiting on sort of trying to be able to do more with it. Um, Try to utilize it more. But it's got very good growth to it.
no, absolutely. I think with the update as well, it's sort of holding us back as well.
Mm.
Because I know Joe is keen to get started with Jamestown Promotions.
Yeah.
I want to move on to the other big plan that I was talking about. If you remember with the
Yeah.
whole car thing, I think that's going to be pretty cool, depending on what changes are happening in the server.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, there is so much potential with Arcadius, and then trying to get other people involved. I think that's another thing we're trying to get on board as well, is just other people.
Yeah.
It's not difficult to do. It's just trying to find the right people with the mindset.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
but yeah, even like people like Adore as well. Like she's doing summer media.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty cool. I'm really impressed. I'm looking forward to working with Summer Media. I actually have something like ready for them to advertise for LSC and all that. But actually, one thing we didn't really touch on. Actually, there's two things we didn't really touch on. Was you went from Beakers to Benny's, from Benny's to Paradise.
Mm-hmm.
What happened there? So you had Beakers for about a couple months, and then you moved to
No, we had
Paradise.
Beakers for 2 years, maybe.
Yeah. Sorry,
Maybe
Benny's.
just a bit
Sorry.
less.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had Beakers for 536 days or something like that.
Yeah.
And then we were getting tired of that. Polito was dying down. No
Yeah.
one was opening things like Hen House or coming up to Polito. So I put a business app in for Benny's and
Yep.
got Benny's, even over the people that were co-owning it at the time and all that. Got the business, rebuilt the sort of whole structure of how we wanted a mechanic shop to be run, and reinvent it, redesign the place and all that.
Yeah.
Had that for about 6 months, and then got offered by Boss to open up Paradise, which was Autos, and we renamed it to Paradise and sort of merged the two things together with Frank.
Yep.
Because initially we wanted to open up, Beakers and Sunshine and call it Beak Shine,
Yep.
as a sort of meme, and so we sort of got the chance to do that, and we sprung on it,
Yeah.
and yeah, we got to design that from the ground up and texture that whole thing and create how we wanted it to work and all that.
From where Beakers was, to where Paradise is now. Is there like much difference? Like how can you compare it?
There's a big difference. The big difference is like community standpoint.
Yeah.
There's not as big of a like Paradise community as there was a Beakers community.
Yeah.
Everyone was always in love with Beakers. You know, Beakers on top.
I
All that
remember
sort of
that. Yeah,
stuff.
that's on Beakers. Yes.
Yeah,
Yep. I
and
remember that.
Paradise was good at first and good for, you know, the first sort of months and months.
Yeah.
But you know, it's all based on the server and everything like that. There's always going to be ups and downs and stuff like that.
I'm pretty sure you're aware, but Jamarcus just got Beakers as well.
Yeah.
You know, seeing as you know he was an apprentice for you back at Benny's, to watching him get a business, and even for myself to you know get a business as well. What's that like for you as a business owner, watching guys like Jamarcus and myself, you know, get you know sort of our own businesses and stuff like that.
You know, it's sad for me because I'm losing a good worker.
Yeah.
But it's the one thing that I always want people to have the opportunity to have, which is owning a business.
Yeah.
And so sort of seeing someone get to that point of being able to have their own business and experience what I get to experience with
Yeah.
Ollie is always like the best thing.
I think that's pretty cool. And another thing we didn't get to touch on was LR, where it was at the start to where it is now. What's sort of what's your take on that?
Completely different.
Completely different?
Yeah. It's never gonna be the same. I always said this to people.
Yeah.
But it was very based on, you know, role play and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's sort of, as the numbers grew, you know, at the time it was managing 6 people.
Yeah.
And, you know, now it's like, you know, 20 plus people.
Yeah.
So it's always going to be different. It's not the same. It's never going to be the same. The role play is not going to be the same.
Yeah. A bit of a controversial one.
Mm.
And probably sort of to, you know, wrap up the podcast. Who do you think was LR's biggest pickup? Surp says Mana. Surp reckons Mana was LR's one of LR's biggest. But what do you
Biggest pickup?
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Dang, you got me thinking. I would say, to be honest, it would probably be either Mana or Jack and Willie,
Yeah.
the couple.
Yeah. Because yeah, Jack and Willie,
Jack and Willie were like, and still are like, very serious role players. They know what they're doing. They know how to do stuff.
yeah,
They know how to run their shit. And at the time with the whole stuff that was going on with Lost and how they sort of ended it all and that whole storyline, it was pretty big for LR to pick up them being so good at what they do.
yeah. Nah, that's pretty cool. Well, yeah, man. I think we should wrap it up. But I do appreciate, you know, you taking the time to come have this chat. You know, is there anything you want to plug your Twitch or your, you know, your YouTube or anything like that?
Yeah, go follow me at ASPEX GFX Pro CS:GO player. You'll see that in my bio. Yeah, that's about it.
Nah, you're a legend. Thank you so much for your time, bro. Really appreciate ya.
All right, easy. Take care, everyone. Appreciate it.
Alright, see you, brother. Take care. So yeah, we are most definitely gonna wrap up this podcast. But yeah, look, episode 3 tomorrow. I wonder who we're interviewing. I think it's only gonna be a short one because we do have a bit of role play. a bit of roleplay going on tomorrow with I think it's the Ricards winning. Pretty sure. I could be wrong. But yeah, I think that's going to be pretty cool to get into. Just trying to think what else we got on tomorrow. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's either going to be a toss up between Youngin and Dreams. They're the two, depending on who's available and how much we can knock out, probably within maybe an hour or so. But yeah, it'll be something different, not an LR podcast like, we had Mana yesterday, we had Surp and ASPEX today, we went back to back. But yeah, we'll be podcasting all week up until, the update. And I got to get clarification on what time that update's actually, pushing through, because I would actually love to stream, loading in and everything out, everything like that is all for the first time. Now, before I do sign off, I got to give a shout out to Bopper Loud, Zeta Kun, Max the Finest, 77 Manny, Baby AU, Nice Meme, and Frustrate. Thank you so much for following. I really do appreciate that. Anna Tide, I'm gonna give you a shout out only because Aspects didn't give you one. Who else do I got to shout out? We're gonna shout out, I suppose, I don't know. We got a shout out to everybody here, who's a part of the OzzyGaming community. I think yeah, this week, like I said, we are doing something different to just role play. I think there's sort of no point because of the new update, but I'm pretty sure we're all keen for it. So we're just taking a break from roleplay, doing all podcasts and stuff like that. But yeah, I do appreciate everybody pulling through. I think we are going to this person that we're gonna raid. He's an Aussie gamer himself. He's a cop main, but we gotta share the love for Aussie gaming. Check this guy out. This is the Oz himself. Hayden Brick. He's the GOAT. Check him out. And also donate to him. He's trying to rebuild a PC. He's trying to build a new PC. So if you gotta help a brother out. He's trying to build a new PC to get his content out there and everything like that. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and yeah, we'll catch you on the next stream.